So hi everyone, we're back in my kitchen workshop and I'm building more modifications for the 825 so that I can play my original ambient music on that instrument more effectively. So we're looking today at an accessory switch I put together. Now, some of the music I've written depends on the use of a looper, and this device allows me to take little snippets, repetitive snippets that I can put together and layer together as a rhythmic effect. And if you watched last week's concert, you heard some of that and watched me work the looper pedal to create those effects. Now, the looper pedal in its standalone configuration has all the basic functions that you need, but you can add a additional foot switch to it to tap into more features, and that's what I am in need to do for some of my other music. The looper in its standalone, you hit it and it starts to record. You hit it again and you can overdub, put another layer on. You hit it again and it goes into playback mode. And once it's in playback mode, every time you tap it, it toggles back and forth between overdub and playback. If you want it to stop, do a double click and it stops. If you want it to pick up and continue, hit it again and it goes back to playback mode. And that's fine for most of the things I need to do. But I need some additional features if I'm going to do some of the other pieces that I've written. And what Roland sells under their Boss brand name is an FS1 foot switch, and they want 75 bucks for this thing. And its size and shape don't really fit really well on the organ. So I decided I can build my own switch, right? So the first thing I tried was I took a stereo quarter-inch jack plug, like is what they use to connect the FS6 foot switch, and then I just hooked a couple of buttons to it. These are called thumb pistons. These are found underneath the keyboard of most organs, and they operate certain functions like the combination setter and things like that. Now, what's important about them is they are a momentary push button that is normally open. So what that means is when the button is sitting there, there's no continuity between the two connections. When you press the button, there's continuity between the two connections, and then that actuates the function. So I plugged this I hooked this, wired this up, plugged it all in, and it accessed those extra functions, except they didn't work right. So I got online and looked into it, and Roland has designed that machine, the RC1, to operate with normal closed switches. And what that would mean is the opposite of the thumb piston. And that also means it's opposite of the toe piston, which is what I ultimately wanted to use for this. So I got some extra toe pistons that I have in my parts collection, and I started looking at it and I thought, well, I could reconfigure the innards on this switch to make it a normal closed and open when you press, but I'm a little skeptical of how well the continuity would be maintained, since the RC1 is dependent on the continuity being present while the machine is just running. If there's any gap in that continuity, then that's going to trigger that function, and that could be problematic. So having an open contact switch was not really going to be the best solution. Now, of course, the easiest would be to buy a push button at an electronics supplier that would give you both normal open and normal closed, and would be sealed. Well, I really wanted to use proper toe studs because these are nice and big, and they give me a lot of surface area to hit my foot on. They're designed to be hit with my foot, but I still needed sealed contacts and I needed normal closed. So this is what I built, and I'll bring the camera in closer and we'll take a look. So here we go. So what I did was, inside this enclosure, I've put in a couple of relays. So these have both normal open, normal closed contacts on them. And instead of having the toe stud operate the function on the RC1, it's the relay that's going to do that. The toe studs will simply operate the appropriate relays. Now, this means I have to have a power source. Well, I have a 9-volt power source going into the RC1, so I configured my, those of you who use these effects pedals know what a one spot is, and I configured it so that I opened up the one spot's extension cord so that it goes into this box and then continues on to any effects devices I'm using. I put in a couple of solder lugs here to make it convenient. I attached the relays with the pins up, and so it's a pretty simple wiring system. We have power coming in here. I've routed the power to the coil side of the relay, and those coils are actuated by my toe studs. When the coil is actuated, then the normally closed switch opens up and triggers the function on the RC1. And we have both the stop erase function and the overdub undo function. So let's plug it in and see how it works. Okay, so we're here underneath the organ's key deck on the pedal board, and here's the RC1. Now we're going to go ahead and put the power to the setup here, and I've got power both to my button board here, and it says in the instructions explicitly, make sure the looper itself is powered down, and it is, before you plug in your accessory buttons. Okay, now this will mount here so that I have access to the toe studs with my foot here, here, and here. And so I'll have all the functions available conveniently. Now let's power up the looper. Now, hopefully you can see when you hit this once, you can see now it's recording. Then we go to overdub mode, and flashes green and red. Now we're in playback mode. Now, what the accessories allow me to do is, say I didn't like that overdub. Well, I can go over here, boom, it erased that overdub and continues to play. If I need it to stop, boom, now it's stopped. So the reason having that separate stop button is, rather than just double clicking here, is there's another important function of this. Say I'm in the middle of the piece and I've got my loop running, and I need to, in the next segment of the piece, record something different. Well, if I do without the accessory switch, I have to stop this, then I have to hold it down, and while it's being held down before it erases everything, it's playing back, which would disrupt the next part of the music. On the other hand, if I have something running and I go here, I stop it, and then when I hold this button down, it erases silently. Then I'm free to record the next round of things on here. So this is my home-built little accessory. Now, we'll go back over to the workbench, and I'll show you the other thing that has to happen before this Sunday's concert. So the other little accessory I have to build before this Sunday, really by the end of the day, so I have time to practice. So in order to run the 825, which is an old analog technology organ through modern effects processors, as I did last Sunday. I had to get the audio outputs. Well, there's audio outputs on the back of the organ that are meant to go to external amplifiers and then external speakers. And those used an old style 5-pin plug that I have a bunch of in my old part supply. So I made some adapter cords that had the 5-pin plug on them, but then had the standard 1/4-inch phone plug, which is used on everything, like on all the effects processors and amplifiers that I'd be using. From there, what I did was I went into a regular stereo amplifier, but I found out that I have to go back into the organ's speakers, and so for this past Sunday I kind of jerry-rigged that. The better way would be able to the external outputs go through the effects processors and then back into the organ's internal amplifiers and then onto its own speaker system. So to do that, I have to build another adapter. So we have the 5-pin to 1/4-inch for the output to the effects processors. Then we have to go 1/4-inch to these to go into the organ's internal amplifier. And so I've got a long multi-channel audio cable here, and this is pretty simple. I'm not really going to spend time putting this together in front of you. I just need to wire this into these, and then on the other end of the cable solder in a bunch of these, and then I've got my 1/4-inch to Molex adapter cable, so I'll be able to then have a much more convenient setup. So then for this next Sunday's concert, the effects processors are just going to be right on top of the organ, and they'll be located such that as I'm playing I can switch to the next patch conveniently. It'll all go back into the organ's and audio system that's designed for that organ, so I'll get the best possible sound out of this whole deal by putting together all of these adapters. And then I'm going to have some pretty custom equipment. I don't know if I get rid of the 825, I don't know that I'll ever use any of this stuff again. But I have this equipment now, and I'm doing these concerts now, so I'm doing what I have to do. So be sure to tune in for my Sunday live streams. They're done every Sunday on Facebook. Find Tony I, the Oregon Guy, on Facebook, and you can tune in every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.